Hello everyone, welcome to another First Chapter Friday. Or maybe you tuned in to find out what is happening with the One Book, One School program for Marshfield at our Furnace Book School. Anyways, either way, this book I'm about to present to you is remarkable, and it is Count Me In by Varsha Bajaj. Alright, let me get going. Chapter 1, Karina. By the way, these books are going to be alternating between Karina and Chris. And Chris is a neighbor of hers who is Caucasian. And then Karina is from India. She's American, but her family is from India. Chris Daniels and I are like separate planets orbiting in the same galaxy. Like the planets, we have our own paths, and I like it that way. Mine is full of photos and stories, and his is full of basketball and hyenas. Like Venus and Earth, we are next-door neighbors. We've been in the same school since I moved to the neighborhood in 3rd grade, but we've been in the same class only once, in 5th grade. Then, of all the crappy karma, there he is, on the first day of 7th grade, in 5 out of my 7 classes at Spring Hill Middle School. How did this happen and why? I must have had some good karma too, because Miss Trotter is my homeroom and social studies teacher. She is the best. She greets me with a fist bump, for real. Ms. Trotter, is flawed though. She believes in assigned seating. Seeing Chris sitting at the desk on my left in homeroom makes it kind of impossible to focus. Our paths are getting dangerously close. It makes me remember stuff from a year ago that I'd buried away, like those jeans with the patchwork flowers in the depths of my closet. Being neighbors, Chris and I have waited at the same bus stop every morning for years. He always carries some type of ball, basketball, football, or baseball. The boys play an impromptu game, as if they can't waste even those few minutes before the bus rumbles in. I typically have my nose in a book because I have a genetic flaw that does not allow me to catch, throw, or whack a round object. Also, I don't want to be laughed at. When a girl named Emily played with the boys and flubbed a catch, they laughed all the way to school and back for days. It feels like survival of the most athletic on our suburban Houston streets. And Chris was a witness to one of the most worst moments of my middle school life. It was in 6th grade, early in the school year. It was still 98 degrees because apparently the weather gods had not flipped the calendar from summer to fall yet. Every ride home on the bus was a sauna, and it brought out the worst in the boys, who for some reason had turned into a pack of cackling hyenas that year. While the rest of us fanned ourselves with notebooks or sighed in submission to the heat, they started making lists. They were not harmless to-do lists. The prettiest girls, the bossiest girls, the girls with the best hair. My best friend Ashley made that list. The girls with the worst hair. Your basic degrading grading system for girl human beings. Then Quinn, or Hyena 1, said, "Let's make a list of the girls with the hairiest arms." Because why not, right? Instinctively, I pulled at my short sleeves. I didn't have a sweater or cover-up because 98 degrees. Together the hyenas said, "K-chops!" Yuck, yuck, yuckity yuck. Yes, I, Karina Chopra, was at the top of the list. The only one on the list. The boys thought it was so hilarious that they couldn't stop laughing long enough to name anyone else. I glanced around through lowered lids. Some of the kids nearby pretended that they had not heard, but I knew that they had, because they weren't wearing earplugs and none of them had a hearing problem. Others were laughing. For the briefest moment in time, like a nanosecond, I caught Chris Daniels' eye. He wiped off his grin the moment our eyes had met. Then he looked away because he had been seen. Back then, I envied girls who had older brothers or sisters to protect them from bullies. Before the hairy arms incident, I imagined that my neighbor Chris, who had grown taller and bigger, would one day be my friend and stand up for me. His older brother Matt was always friendly to me, but he had gone off to college a few years back. After I saw Chris being a jerk with his friends, I realized he was not Superman, and I didn't need rescuing anyways. The rest of the way home, I was mad at myself for caring. Ashley, who usually sat with me on the bus, was homesick that day. If she had been there, she would have glared at the hyenas and said, "Karina, they're fools." But in a way, I was just as glad she missed it all. Who needs a witness to my humiliation? From that day forward, I wore a lot of long-sleeved shirts to cover up my arms, even in the heat of Houston, Texas. At first, Mom didn't even notice. She and Dad were busy building their sandwich franchise. Mom had quit her 9-to-5 job at an oil company a year before. Dad still had his day job as a computer systems analyst, which meant he was working 25 out of 24 hours a day. Finally, one day, Mom looked at me and said, "Karina, what happened to all the cute shirts that we bought for back to school?" She caught me off guard, so I blurted out the truth. "They all have short sleeves and I need to cover up my ugly arms." Mom and Dad exchanged one of their looks. "Oh, Karina," Mom said. "Boys can be awful. Don't let them get to you. Your arms are not ugly." But Mom has to say that, right? Around the same time, I was passed a note. It had my name on it in big, bold letters. Karina. I turned to see who had written it to me, but everyone had their heads down. I opened up the note. In the same bold letters, spelled, "Curry chops stinks. Go home." When I looked back again, hyena number 1, otherwise named Quinn, was giggling. I read the note again. This time I took a deep breath to calm myself. I didn't live under a rock. I knew since 9/11, when the Twin Towers tumbled and terror came to our shores, that people have looked at brown skin with suspicion. I wasn't even born then, but the stories were whispered in South Asian immigrant homes for years after. Usually, the adults tried to shield us kids. Even so, the fear seeped through the closed doors and the ventilation ducts. "Be careful," they said. "Be careful." When I was 7 or 8, my older cousin told me about the Sikh American man who had got shot in Arizona after 9/11 attacks, probably because he was wearing a turban, and that alone made them, the murderer, think, "Foreigner, terrorist." My cousin had been telling us ghost stories. Somehow she ended up telling us a real story that was even scarier. I was thankful that my father and grandfather did not wear turbans, and I worried for my friends whose fathers and grandfathers did. My parents calmed my fears. They believed in America, and they said that we were still safe. I trusted them because I wanted to. It could never happen to me, I told myself. And why would it happen to me? I was like my friends and peers. I reread the note. "Curry chops stinks. Go home." Was I different from my friends and peers? I knew I didn't stink. The note was Quinn's way of saying he thought that I was un-American, even though I was born in Texas, and so were my parents. I remembered crumpling up the note very deliberately and tossing it into the trash when my teacher wasn't looking. And for once, despite my shaky hands, it fell into the basket in one determined arc, because that was where it belonged, and the universe knew that. I noticed Chris Daniels watching me make that throw. When I told my dad about the note, he let out a swear word, and I could see how upset he was. "Ignore their haters, Karina," he told me. "Keep your head down and work. My father always said that the best revenge is success. And remember, this is your country as much as it is Quinn's." Mrs. Trotter asked me a question, and that brings me back to class. She looks confused when I have no answer. She does not realize that I have not heard a word that she said. Chris and I don't speak to each other the rest of that first day of 7th grade, nor do we on the bus ride home. Today, I'll let myself be distracted by Chris Daniels. But tomorrow it will be different. I'm determined to have a good year and to do well, especially in math. 2 things are definitely going to help me with that. My grandfather is moving in with us, and he is a math whiz. I will have my own personal tutor at home. Papa coming to live with us is also great because it means I won't have to go to the sandwich store after school. I'll get a break from slicing cucumbers and tomatoes. I'll even have some more time for my photography. In the evening, I borrow Dad's Canon and stroll around the neighborhood taking pictures. I need to submit my very best photograph for an art gallery competition later this fall, and I'm still shooting. I can already see my photograph hanging on the gallery's perfect walls, bathed by a spotlight. I can hear the applause. I can smell the wine and cheese. Will they have sparkling cider for the underage exhibitors? Yes, it's going to be a very good year. So, as you can tell, she is a girl full of optimism and a love for her family and her culture. And you will learn more about that Sikh culture as you read the book, along with how she deals with bullying and other events that are going to occur. So this is a great book for you to choose for the One Book, One School, as are the others, but just wanted you to know what this one's all about. And I hope you have a great week. Take care.